So, are you ready to battle some dukes? So this reading vlog idea was something I thought of when filming my big giant historical romance book hauls, because I felt like books in a row were My Night with the Duke and To Love a Duke and this Duke and that Duke, and I was like, oh my god, it would be so much fun to read several books that all had Duke in the title. Obviously the hero was a Duke, and then compare them as I read them about like the trope of the Duke, how he's romanticized, you know, how he compares in each book. Obviously some of these will be newer, some will be older. So I've picked out 5 books that all have Duke in the title. Only one of them I truly know a lot about, the rest I don't. And all 5 of these, I've not read anything by these authors, so there's no real bias going into these. Which Duke shall win and be the favorite of my heart? First, we need to start and talk about the rating system that's going to happen here. Is it convoluted? Does it make sense? Has it been fleshed out? No, not at all. I am chaotic to begin with, so don't expect much, finesse in this. So there are three main criteria we're going to be talking about when it comes to each Duke here. Obviously, my overall enjoyment of the book and the Duke and his romance is number 1. Number 2, how is he as a Duke? Like, is he the alpha Duke? Like, what is his kind of dukeliness? This is gonna sound like so absurd. And then 3, how is he as a like steamy, sexy guy? Like, how is his sex scenes? That's a third criteria. So again, we're gonna be rating him on just like the overall book and how he is as a hero. Number 2, how he is as like the person of power in this book. And like, how he interacts within the ton. And then 3, him as a steamy, sexy dude. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but it does in my head. And so now, let's talk about which books I plan to read in this particular reading vlog. Though, I've got a ton of other books that we can keep on doing this series with just Dukes for a really long time. But I hope to get to do Rakes and Highlanders and Lords at some other point. The book that currently inspired me to want to do this right now over like the next, this might be just a week or this might be 2 weeks, is Her Night with the Duke by Diana Quincy. This is an advanced copy, but it's already out. I won this from Diana on her Instagram. It is signed, which is really nice, so thank you, Diana. So this book, it sounds really great. So this follows Lady Delilah Chambers, and she's been stranded at a country inn. And while there, she ends up meeting Elliot Townsend, Duke of Huntington. And so he is betrothed to another woman, and they end up having a very steamy night at this country inn. And they're both very enraptured with each other, but we come to find out that Delilah is actually his betrothed's stepmother. So we have older woman, younger man, one night, one bed. It just sounds like fire. So I'm very excited for this. This is obviously a very new release. So I was like, let's read some other Dukes. I kind of picked these up all at random off my shelves. So we'll look at the dates when these were published, but I don't think none of these are very, very old. So we'll discuss. So I literally just went through my shelf and was like, Duke. Okay, let's go to the next shelf, Duke. Next shelf, Duke. So none of these really have any strategic planning on this part, though maybe future ones will, I don't know. So this is Last Night with the Duke. So this might be another Duke one night stand. So this follows, so this basically is a wallflower Duke romance. So the Duke of Griffin has always been a rake, but his younger twin sisters are ending up with his bad reputation as they're entering society. So he decides to enlist this woman he's met, Miss Esmeralda Swift, to basically help with their image. She's like very sensible, and she, you know, has need for his employment to help with his sister's debut into the season. But obviously the notorious rake Duke is gonna steal her heart. This looks fairly short. It's only like 290 pages, which is like fun. And when did this come out? Cover page. This came out in 2017. So also a fairly recent release, 3 years old. I'm very excited for this. I love this kind of bargain, sexy times, notorious rake. So that'll be really interesting in terms of quality, A, 3, which is the sexiness, but also 2 of like the power dynamics of her being in his employment, the bargain, also like him being a rake as well as a duke is interesting. And then the general plot is the first one in the romance of it all. So very excited. The next one is an author that I've heard a lot about and I've heard really great things, and it's Laura Lee Gerke. She has been like a classic author, written like a ton, so I'm very excited for her. So this one is The Truth About Love and Dukes. This one also came out in 2017. Oh my god, this one sounds really great. So Henry, the Duke of Torquil, his mother actually reads an advice column called Dear Lady True Love and decides to elope with a man and runs off. So Henry, being very annoyed by this and his mother's actions, decides that he's going to go and find the actual writer of the column, Dear Lady True Love, and just tell her how she's basically ruined his relationship with his mother. And then obviously they're going to fall in love because of that. Exciting. This one sounds really good. They're all kind of sounding really good. So Dana is doing well picking random books off her shelves. The next book is The English Duke by Karen Rainey. I have not read any Karen Rainey, but I feel like I have quite a few of her books on my shelves now. This one also came out in 2017. This is bizarre, except besides the 2021, we're all reading 2017 books. Ooh, okay, so Martha York has always kind of been fascinated and had a crush on Jordan Hamilton. He's the new Duke of Roth, and he's also the protege to her father, who is an inventor. So obviously Jordan is an inventor. He's very kind of analytical, and she shows up at his house and they end up working together. And I think he doesn't know who her identity is, and he's bound to another woman, and through working together and the forced proximity of it, fall in love. I don't know if this one sounds as exciting to me as maybe the past books, but I like the idea of her also wanting to like be an inventor as well, so. And then the last book is like my least favorite cover. This is The Illegitimate Duke by Sophie Barnes. Look at his like fake photoshopped red hair. It's terrible. You just need to see it. So let me read what this one's about. Ooh, okay, so this one actually sounds really good. So this follows Lady Juliet Matthews, who is a very wealthy woman. She has recently acquired a fortune. She's very pretty, but she wants to do something else with her life. She wants to help the less fortunate. But because of her station, not a lot of people, A, want her to, you know, care about those who are beneath her, or, you know, do anything else besides just be pretty and sit at fancy parties and just be, you know, an ornament. And then the man she ends up kind of having this romance with is Florian Lowell. He has just been made the heir of the Duke of Reading. He's also a physician, and now the country's most eligible bachelor. And he still feels like Juliet is not within his station because obviously the title, he's the illegitimate Duke. And his secrets kind of end up threatening. Oh, so Juliet ends up kind of putting herself into a dangerous position, and Florian must help her, and, you know, he's gonna try and probably tame her, I don't know. So that sounds really fun. They all kind of have very different plot lines. We've got some wild ladies doing their thing. I feel like, yeah, that's kind of, are any of them really wallflowers? Maybe Esmeralda's a bit of a wallflower, but they all seem like women out here doing their thing. So I'm very excited, and I'm very excited to meet these dukes. So I think I'm probably gonna read this one physically, and then I have found that all 4 of these are on Scribd, so very excited to start them very soon. So the next clip will probably be an update for when I've started one of these. So, Battle of the Dukes update time. I've finished my first duke, and sadly this one did not cut it. We're at bottom of the barrel dukes, the first read. I've got a lot of thoughts. This followed the Duke of Griffin and Esmeralda Swift. So let's talk plot-wise, because that's my first category here. Plot-wise, this book was a mess. So it's obviously very short. I think it was just narrowly under 300 pages. And this book needed to be a lot longer, or rather a lot more condensed to fit in this 300 pages, because the setup of this is that it's a governess romance. The main character, Esmeralda, is the head of this governess agency. She took it over from the woman who had previously been running it. Esmeralda's taking care of her sister. So she gets offered this job by this this duke who has eyes for her right away. And he needs a chaperone for his twin sisters who are entering society. This is their first season, and they need a chaperone and a governess to help them be eligible ladies. So, 300 pages, this book. She doesn't really fully meet those twins until page 90. The whole point of this book is that she's the governess, helping them be chaperoned into society. And she doesn't meet them until a third of the way into the book. And there are really no society events that she helps coach them through. What? And then there's this whole other background issue going on here of the Duke of Griffin being essentially blackmailed for something he did when he was really young. He and the other rakes that the series is called, the Rakes of St. James, they bullied these young women. And now one of the young women, or at least one of their brothers or fathers, are trying to get back at them. And so he's afraid that his sisters are going to have their season ruined. So plot-wise, this is getting a 1 from me. Just the execution here was terrible for what this could have been. I actually like a governess trope. I think in most circumstances can do really well. And the problem for me is that this one basically overwrites it by the main character is the granddaughter of a viscount, and her sister is an illegitimate child, I believe, or her mother was the daughter of a viscount, and their mother, in her second marriage, married a man who was of lower status, and so her sister has kind of been this outsider to society. And so obviously it's all okay for her to end up with this duke because she's a granddaughter of a viscount, and it's just what? Also, it just feels weird that this duke is so just into her right away. It's a little too intense. So him as a duke, so we're getting, of the 1 to 5 stars for plot, this is getting a 1. No, you know what, we're gonna give it a 2. So we're gonna give it 2 for plot here, and I think, 2 is what I feel my overall rating of this is gonna be. So for the Duke of Griffin as a dukely figure, I feel he has no priorities, and he's very focused on Esmeralda and Esmeralda's sister, and the twins feel an afterthought in all of this, though they should be a lot more important. Also, I feel really gross about the plot of him having been a bully, of that alpha duke character. He doesn't really have it. Yeah, I don't know, like, I hate that I picked this book, and it was the first book that I decided to read, because now I'm like, ugh, you know? He didn't feel charming. He, like, was very, like, you know, yeah, so he's getting a 1 in terms of, like, his dukeliness. In terms of sexy times and just, like, overall steaminess, this book had maybe 2 sex scenes, if that, and one of them, like, you know, was, like, and, like, 1 kiss. It did not wow me. There was, like, 1 that was kind of, but it just, like, didn't hit at all. So he's at the bottom of the barrel for the Dukes of this reading vlog. Not a fan of him. I need to, like, after this vlog, figure out a better rating system for this whole thing that feels, like, a little bit more, like, concrete, other than just feelings of, like, plot, dukeliness, steaminess. Clearly didn't think this one through. So I did start the next one, and so I guess I'm going in the order now of least interested in, and hopefully they'll get better. I'll be back in when I finish this, and we'll move on to another book. Time for an update for Battle of the Dukes. I'm still technically in the middle of The Illegitimate Duke on audio. I put this down for the Paranormal Romance readathons. Then I'm gonna keep chugging away at this one after I did pick up and finish Her Night with the Duke by Diana Quincy. Overall, I'm giving this one 4 stars. And I think obviously that's the first part of my ranking of this. So 4 stars for the plot. I really loved the heroine for this one. She was great. Very independent. She's obviously a widow. She is a writer. She loves to travel. She's just really strong and doesn't really take any of his shit. So love her. The plot of this one is really fun. And the forbidden aspect makes this one so compulsively readable. The hero is my favorite thus far in this video that I've obviously read the first book, currently in the middle of that second one, but he's my favorite. He's very staunch in the fact that he doesn't want to hurt his reputation because his brother squandered away his life and then he died, and so now he's inherited. So he's very kind of careful about his associations. That's why he wants to marry. But he is, like, all about this woman after he's met her, which makes it really hard because he's supposed to marry her stepdaughter. And as the book progresses, it's a little bit unbelievable how at times he's, like, so into her. Like, I feel like I wanted a little bit more time for them to sit and talk and be together a little bit. Before his feelings were so much like, I'm in love with you and I can't live without you and you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Where did that demonic voice come from? I'm sorry. He was a little bit much, but at the same time, it's like, you can't help but eat it up, you know? Like, here is this man who's just like, I need you in my life and your pussy's the best pussy ever. Like, it's great. But I don't know. So he's winning for me plot-wise. The book wins plot-wise. And then in his dukeliness, I think he fits that, like, duke who knows his boundaries and what he can and cannot do. But he's, like, so tortured because he really wants it. And then in steaminess, this book has, like, a chapter 2 or 3 sex scene that is really good. And then they have some really great sex later on in this book. That's really good. So, best steamiest thus far. Also, I like him as a duke the best so far. And the plot really worked for me. There was also some things that were kind of a little rough to read in terms of the Arabic representation that weren't always so pleasant to read. Obviously, time period being reflected here, but at the same time, romance is a fantasy. I want happy representation in my romance because this book is fake. You don't need to have any historical accuracy. It's historical romance. So that being said, overall, I really, really liked this one. It was such like a fun, perfect read for what I wanted right now. And it's on top in the battle of the Dukes. He's really duking it out right now. I don't know if Laura Lee Gerke and Karen Rainey can come for Hunt, but they can try, is all I'm saying. They can try. I don't think the illegitimate Duke's gonna take it, but you never know. I still have half of that book to read. He could duke it out. I don't know. But there's the update. So, I have finished 2 more books. I had been reading this one for quite some time on audio and took a long break for paranormal readathons and then quickly finished it. I think I gave this one 3 stars on Goodreads. I quite enjoyed this one, so I didn't love it, but clearly. So this one followed Duke Florian Lowell. He is the Duke of Reading, and he didn't come into being heir because of his parentage. He's actually an illegitimate son of his brother inherited, and he assumed the dukedom of an uncle. The book follows the fact that he's an illegitimate child because his mother had an affair and his actual father is a criminal. But Florian is a doctor. So there's a lot of convoluted things going on here. Also, this is the 3rd in a series, but there's a lot of things that are unexplained for the reader, despite this being the 3rd book. And I haven't read books 1 and 2, so I feel like that's kind of a missed opportunity for historicals. Most, you can just read them and pick them up and have no need, but the heroine, Lady Juliet Matthews, she is actually a person who grew up in poverty, and then apparently in the first 2 books you learn how her family came up through the ranks, but we don't really know very well in this book, so that's kind of upsetting. I quite enjoyed their romance. Florian is kind of a stern, staunchy doctor, and he is not like a people person. No one really likes him. He's not very good with people, but he's good at what he does and being a doctor, which is kind of like unusual because he obviously now has this title and he doesn't need to work at all. And Juliet is kind of, I wouldn't call her a blue stocking, but she really wants to help people, especially because she came from lesser beginnings. And during this book there is a typhus outbreak, and so Juliet wants to help people, and Florian is obviously a doctor and caring about not spreading the disease. And there is a really sweet bed scene, like a sick bed scene, where he is obviously nursing her back to health, and that was towards the end. I think so. When our 3 things that we're ranking and in the Battle of the Dukes is plot, him as a duke, and the like general steaminess of this romance. So for plot, I'm kind of, this is where it's getting lowered rank wise. I feel like this one was very boring. There was a lot of plot going on, but it didn't really amount to all that much. Like, I didn't care about his father, who was a criminal, and there was stuff going on with Juliet's background, but it was all just very, very slow. Very slow. So I think that's where I'm kind of, it's getting like 2 out of 5 there for the plot. I really liked Florian as a Dukely character. I think for that he's getting a 4 on our rating scale here. He's kind of like my favorite, like, kind of arrogant asshole who like doesn't talk a lot, but he's actually got a heart of gold. Obviously he's a doctor, and that, you know, comes to play in a lot of that. But I really liked him overall, and I liked his relationship with Juliet. steaminess, it got there, but it wasn't like memorable at all. So I'm giving that a 3 out of 5 for there. So 2, 3, and a 4. This one's fallen middle of the pack. It's fallen middle of the pack. It's not my least favorite, but it's also not my favorite. So there's that one. And then the other book that I finished is The English Duke by Karen Rainey. So this one, I have such conflicting feelings on it, because while I thoroughly enjoyed listening to this audiobook, like I was hooked, like hooked. And I was really rooting for this hero and heroine. There were 2 major things that I disliked in this book. So we're taking the plot and we're taking it to a 2-star. I hate doing this because I thoroughly enjoyed this couple and their relationship and their wittiness together, and they're both 2 intellectuals. So let's talk about what this book was. So this follows Jordan Hamilton, who is a duke, but he's also like an inventor. And he had a really good friendship with this man named Matthew York. Matthew York has passed away, and his daughter, Martha, was very close to him and his inventor kind of lifestyle and, you know, creative aspirations with inventing. He was working on a like torpedo for like the Naval Academy. Continues on his legacy, kind of working on his inventions. And the father, Matthew, left so much of his notes and his work to Jordan Hamilton. So Martha is writing him letters, and he never responds. So she decides to pack up the whole fam, and we're gonna go bring this stuff to Jordan. And Jordan's like, what? And the chaperone is her grandmother, who is older, and she also has her half-sister with her. So her father had been with her mother died, he remarried this French woman, and her sister was born. Her sister is kind of a jerk. She like is very pretty and like wants to just like sleep with men and marry the Duke. She's vindictive and cruel and has no goodness in her at all. And then the grandmother pulls this thing saying that she's ill. She's not, but she wants obviously one of these girls to find their way to Jordan. Really, she wants Martha because she kind of always had this thing writing letters to this guy. And her and Jordan have a relationship that is built on intelligence, and they just really admire each other, and it's really sweet. And Martha's kind of like really plain, but she's so smart, and Jordan actually had been injured by a horse, and he has like brother issues because his brother was better than him in all aspects, but he died and he was kind of a jerk too. And so he has a like lame leg. He's disabled and he has a lot of pain, and it's chronic and it's really rough for him. And he takes this elixir that helps him, and there is a scene that I want to make sure that, like, when I'm saying that I really enjoyed reading this, but I had issues with it because he takes this elixir, it basically makes him drunk, and Martha is hiding in his room because her sister was gonna sneak into his room in the first place, so she doesn't want her sister to sneak in, and so he's taking this elixir and he's basically drunk, and he kisses her and he thinks he's dreaming, and so she goes along with it and they have sex, and he's completely unaware that he has had sex with her. Actually, he thinks he's dreaming this whole thing, and she knows that he's not in his right sorts, but she continues to go along with it because she likes him, and she thinks he in a way knows that this is going on. And then she realizes it and she's like, oh shit, because he is coerced by the sister into thinking it was her and not Martha. So that happens. The sister is like, I hate when a plot creates a vindictive woman for no reason, who has no redeeming qualities, just to keep the hero and the heroine apart. Like, I feel like there's so much else you could do as a writer, and it just feels so unnecessary, and I hate reading it so much. Like, she could have been terrible, but she also could have been not so terrible. Like, she could have genuinely cared about her sister, but also just cared about herself a lot. Like, she did not care about her sister in any way, and almost gets a happily ever after for herself at the end. That is ridiculous. I thoroughly really love Jordan and Martha, but we have this kind of dubious consent scene, and B, we just have a terribly vindictive sister, and I can't get over it. So, ranking our Duke. Plot-wise, we're giving plot 2 out of 5 because the choices here were not great. On the Duke scale, he is getting I think he's my favorite Duke so far. I think he is. And so he's getting a 5. He's getting a 5 because I liked him a lot. I loved how smart he was. I loved how much he cared about Martha. And how he was so just conflicted about this whole thing that was going on. I just thoroughly loved him. And then the steaminess, we're giving it a 2. There, the scenes were good, but at the same time, that first one, we built the story up on dubious consent. I'm not okay with it. So, when we round these out, 2, 2, and a 5. This is falling, it's falling maybe middle. I will see at the end how this ends up ranking out, but I'm so conflicted about this freaking book. So conflicted. The last book that I will be diving into is The Truth About Love and Dukes by Laura Lee Gurkey, and I'm very excited. I also just really love saying her last name, Gurkey. Gurkey. So I finished the last book in the Battle of the Dukes, and I'm just so excited to have finished this video. Not because I didn't like doing it, but it's so fun because this is one of the first big ideas I had to do, and it's fun to just kind of have done it, and I'm super excited to start a new one. But let's finish it off and let's talk about The Truth of Love and Dukes by Laura Lee Gurkey. So this book follows Irene, who is a newspaper owner, essentially, and a columnist. She writes Dear Lady True Love, and what has happened is the Duke of Torquil, Henry, has a beef with her because his mother wrote to Dear Lady True Love about this man that she likes and is in love with. She's a widow, and she decides to run off with this Italian man who has no money and a lot of family back in Italy, and he does not approve at all. So he goes off to find Lady True Love and to be like, girl, you need to convince my mom to pull it back. And through all of this, he's like, okay, I will help get your sister a place in society if you convince my mom not to go through with this. And obviously it pushes them together. They have a hard time denying their attraction. Things get really, really steamy. And I really, really liked this one. I think at times I didn't love how annoying Henry was about his mom. It was just let this lady live. Come on. And the plotline got a little let's move on with this. But by the time they got to really being into each other, which was really far into the book, I was very, very hooked with it. So plot-wise, this one is getting 4 out of 5 stars for me. I think the thing with the mom was just I just wanted it to be over. It dragged on a lot, and I was this didn't need to be the entire plot of this book for so long. And overall I did really love how much Irene wanted to be the business owner, and she didn't want to compromise on that. But what I I didn't love that she wanted to give up the idea of the column of being like a gossipy column for him to like appease him. Like, we appease no man in this house, okay? That was like probably what pulled it down for me. And I don't think that's like really spoilery of, you know, of course he's not gonna like the column. And then for him as a duke, I think he pulls off the stern brunch daddy duke of my dreams. Like, he is like stern and just like arrogant and kind of an ass, but like in the best of ways. So I really, really liked that. And steaminess, I really like that as well. So as a duke, he's getting also a 4 for me. And then in steam levels, I think this one is maybe getting a 4 too. Like, there were some really good bits. Some really good bits. So, we have come to the end, and we must rank the dukes from least favorite to favorite. And if you've been watching this far, I feel like you probably know what my least favorite and what my favorite might be. But let's figure this out together. Last place is Last Night with the Duke by Amelia Gray. I think this one felt unbelievable. The Duke was not special at all and didn't really give me Duke vibes, you know? He could have been staunchier. This governess plotline didn't make sense. The actual plot didn't actually happen until like a quarter of the way through. This book is getting unhauled ASAP. And then coming next is The Illegitimate Duke by Sophie Barnes. I really liked this Duke, but I think this plot was just boring, and I didn't care about his evil father. Like, I didn't care about it at all. But I liked him. He was fun. I liked him. We love a Dr. Duke. Dr. Duke, that's what he was. And then it's coming in with Jordan Hamilton. I don't know what this man did, but like, he did something for me. But like, the plot of this book took it down. And also the fact that there was like a non-consensual kind of sex scene almost. I feel like if like roles were reversed, this wouldn't have been okay. But like, he knew what was going on, but he didn't know what was going on, which is frustrating. So I liked him, and so I gave this book 3 stars in the end. I feel like maybe I said I gave it 2, I don't know, earlier in the video, but I ended up giving it 3. Like, I really liked it in the end. I don't know. And then I am actually putting this one next. This is The Truth About Love and Dukes. I just kind of rambled on about it very recently. But Henry, I really liked Henry a lot. He's kind of like my perfect kind of Duke. And I don't know, this book was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I was happy with it. I really want to read a lot more Laura Lee Gerke now. Not just because I really enjoy saying her last name, but just in general. And then, coming in at top, we have Elliot Townsend, who throughout the book is called Hunt. And I loved how like infatuated he was with her. While at the same time, I feel like it was like so much and so intense on his part, but like that like longing was really great and really well done. And I just love the heroine, and I love the way they worked together. And the plot of this is just so fucking fun. So fun. This one was really good, and I highly recommend this one. I'm happy to have a winner of the Battle of the Dukes. Ding, ding, ding. He has won and survived the Battle of the Dukes. I've already picked out 5 books for the next one that I'll make my way through. I don't know when that will actually get done and finished, but I'm very excited. Thank you so much for watching this probably very long video, but until next time, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.